James Michener joins me here today. You can follow along with what he's up to by finding him on Instagram. So head over to James R. Michener, and I'm going to have that as a clickable link in the show notes. But really appreciate your time. We were chatting quite a bit before we even hit record, James. I know you're in Arizona and you're primarily a realtor, but man, you got a lot of real estate investing activity going on too.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do is real estate investing, and it's a great platform to launch from being a real estate agent into that. So,
I've always been curious, we work with a lot of realtors in our market, but it's surprising how many people don't get into real estate investing. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, but honestly, I think it's like one of the silliest things because we generally we get the most amount of deals coming through us, right? If you're working the real estate game pretty hard as a real estate agent, and maybe it's horror stories from other investors or whatnot, or just the risk in general. But for me, we were doing so well with our sales. There was one year I sold 360 properties and then made really about 1.6 million. And I'm like, I don't need all this money. Like, let's just put it away, right? So we started house hacking. We bought duplex, moved into that, rent, and then moved out of that. Rented, got a good deal from one of my clients. He's like, I just want out of it. It's a rental. It's trashed. I just want to get done with it. I'm like, well, I can give you this price. That works. He's like, perfect. So we did deal after deal with that, right? And then just networking with agents as they knew that I was a real estate agent. And I asked them, I'm like, well, why don't you buy it, right? At first, I thought it was really weird that they weren't doing it because these were like killer deals. And a lot of them would say, oh, we have this expense, or we put money in the stock market and whatnot. And I'm like, okay. But the wealthiest people I had known, which one of them is my guardian father, he owns 24 rental properties, right? And he retired at the age of 56, while all my friends were dads were doctors and some CEOs and lawyers and whatnot. And they were still working into like their mid 60s. And I'm like, maybe that's the way I need to do it, right? Is that, but I always find it so crazy that real estate agents don't plug some money into the industry that they're in because they know it, they're around it, they have handyman, they have just a good network of people to be able to make the transition and make it easy. And the amount of wealth, right? Because when I started in real estate, houses were selling for 300,000 less than what they're selling for now. And that's happened time and time again where it's tripled, doubled, tripled, etc. And so you have to see the profits there. And I always ask them, I'm like, somebody's going to pay for your investment. Like literally, you're going to rent it, you're going to have a business. And if something happens with your real estate sales, then you have that cash flow coming in. Or if you keep the property for 5, 10 years, it's going to most likely double in price, right? Or at least gain some good equity where you can sell it and cash out if you need to. So I think it comes from more fear than anything and just working with clients that have given them the horror stories. And so, and honestly, I think a lot are kind of commission check to commission check. So maybe they're not saving as much money as they should to get it going. But yeah, I'm always baffled.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. Before we hit record, we're talking about like the shift in the market right now.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for quite some time. Do you see any similarities to what we saw in 2007, 2008?
So I've been a real estate agent for just over a decade now. And so I wasn't really in 2000, I was still just graduating high school. And so I didn't really
Oh, make me
see
feel old then.
what's that?
You're making me feel old.
Oh, yeah. No, I get the often. It's, yeah. But what I noticed is that a lot of people were highly leveraged at that point in time. So I started keeping track of like how much is the down payment that these guys are buying for, how many of them are cash, et cetera, et cetera. And honestly, I don't see a whole lot of 2008 coming in on this at this point in time. My biggest worry is that if they drop the interest rates, my first point I want to make is if the government wants to stimulate the economy, don't drop the interest rate, drop the tax rate that you're charging people, and let more free money go or natural money go into it, right? So,
Hmm.
because if they drop those interest rates and they go down to 4 or 5%, the affordability for real estate is not going to be there for hardly anybody at that point in time, and all you're going to have is big players. So I do not see not a lot of similarities with 2008. in my opinion. How about you?
Yeah, we've been doing this enough now where we've kind of seen some ebb and flows, and the only thing that I find is oddities right now is the commercial property. There's
Yeah.
still on our markets, still a lot of retail storefronts and stuff that are still sitting vacant, and I think if anybody can figure out a new use for some of that space, that's going to be the next windfall.
Does that come from all those vacancies? Do you think that comes from greed, like just not lowering your rents enough to get somebody in there? Or what do you think
I
happens?
I don't know. I just between a lot of we're starting to finally see some businesses and corporations say that you got to start working in the office again. But
Yeah.
for the most part, between the remote working and the retail just not recovering, I just don't know what to think. We had a mall closed, so they tore that thing down already.
Oh,
But
they
it
do.
it it was just was the whole COVID thing was just devastating to some
Oh,
retail spaces.
yeah. I was, and the commercial space, and this is a whole different topic, right? But they only have like 5 year interest rates on that, similar to like Canada, right? So those are all going to be adjusting. And I met with the head of a bank here yesterday, and I said, "Well, what are the rates going to go up to?" Well, if they're at 3%, they're going to go to 7.5%. Like, how do people still cash flow with that big of a change?
Right.
Like, what are we going to see in the commercial market when that starts to happen? That's a big question.
Well, I think that's where things are going to start to fall apart because a lot of those large facilities were again like in 2007 8 they're highly leveraged. So then when now they're going to have double if not triple of their interest rates,
Yeah.
that that's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
So, going back to the realtors and why they may or may not invest, I also find it interesting that they're realtors, they like you mentioned, I'd say it's you can correct me if I'm wrong. I would imagine that most of them are looking or living commission check to commission check. You'd think that they would be looking at ways to even out those peaks and valleys.
Yes. Yeah. That was my number one goal is I worked really hard for the last 8 years, right? 12-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week. And I just realized that I wasn't going to be able to push that hard for very long. I mean, 8 years is a really good run for it. And I saw the clients that I had worked with and the people that I had known that were the wealthiest were the ones that owned real estate. And I thought, man, I can move into a place and have a 3% mortgage, be able to carry that for 30 years. Rents are going to go up. Why not just have a stable payment that I know I can meet all the time and just and keep that property going. So I think, but that's my biggest thing. And I can tell you this: 3 years ago, when was it? 2 years ago, when the market started falling down, right? I had multiple people calling me. They're like, James, what are you going to do? What do you think's going to happen with the market? And I gave them whatever my thought was at that time. But when I hung up the phone, the last call I took that day, I was on the couch with my wife and kids watching a show, and it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And I was like, looked at my wife and I'm like, I am so grateful to my younger self for following that blueprint and buying these rental properties because I can choose how hard I want to work now at this point. I can choose what I want to do. And I mean, I did coaching for a while. This last month was my last month that I'm doing it because I got some other stuff I want to work on. But I tell every single real estate agent, like if you're making $100,000 to $200,000 a year, like pull back on your spending and start putting that into real estate deals because you're already there. Or, instead of if you're a single guy or you're just a couple, like move out of your house that you're in, go get a duplex and get the owner financing and rent out the other side and just start building that up because I am so grateful to my younger self for doing that. And one of the biggest aspects of that is I'm glad I worked really hard before I had kids and when my kids were young, because now I get to spend time with them and go to all their school events. So exactly what you said about leveling it out and kind of making it not peaks and valleys, but be even is something that I'm so grateful for.
So you said you did some coaching on the realtor side of things, or
Yeah, yep. and
Yeah.
also some investment side of things as well. Yep.
So I'm be curious when people start in they're seeking you out to do some sort of realtor coaching or real estate investing coaching. Do you find that more people than not really don't understand the amount of effort that needs to be done to make this work?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like wholesale became really popular, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, you just get a property and then you sell it. It's like it's extremely expensive to get in a wholesale, or you're going to have a lot of sweat equity. Once you get the property, it's going to be difficult to sell those in the beginning because you don't have a good base, right, of
Mhm.
where your buyers are coming from. And it's not all glory. Like wholesale is very, very difficult in my opinion. It takes a lot of startup income and it's a lot of work. There is so much delayed gratification in that. It's crazy in terms of the investing, like in rentals. Like you got to look at a lot of deals. You got to run those numbers. You got to make sure that you're getting stable financing for 15 to 30 years so that you can base the cash flow off of that and not have an alligator property, right? So that's just eating up your savings every month because you're having to feed it over and over and over again just to keep even. And then just like the repairs that go into it, right? So dealing with the tenants, like there's a lot of work that goes into that as well. And just like you and I, like I've owned rentals for the last 8, 9 years, and it's taken me until about the last 3 years to really kind of figure out a good system and have my virtual assistant help me out. And which is one thing that everybody, if you guys are looking for a virtual assistant, let me know. I have two of them myself, and I could refer you to a really good company that get you set up because she runs my rentals now. She has a checklist of what needs to be done when somebody moves out, when they move in, runs my budgeting in terms of what mortgages I have, what the payments are, what the rent is, what the cash flow, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just been a huge help to get that done. But you got to document a lot of the processes too, so that if it hasn't happened in a year or two where you've had a move out, you know exactly what needs to be done. So yeah, but it's a ton of
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that is probably one of the biggest investments you can make is making those documentations. More times than not, we're trying to do activities to eventually, we say financially free, but we're trying to regain our time. And
Yes,
more times than not, we've just created ourselves another job and we're
I
spinning
know.
our wheels.
Yeah, yeah. What's nice about the job when it comes to rentals and your investments is you're calling the shots, right? As a real estate
Mhm.
agent, a lot of people think, oh, you get to work your schedule, you get to do this, you get to do that. Like, no, that is not the case. You got to be ready to go whenever somebody wants to see a property. If you get an offer on a Sunday and they want a response time by Sunday night, you're working that offer, right? When it comes to my rentals, I'm calling the shots, right? Like, hey, if you don't have the income, I'm not going to rent to you. You know, if there's a repair that needs to be done, I'm going to get on it as soon as I can. But I can send you a quick text, hey, I won't be able to get to this for 6 hours to get somebody on it. And so, yeah, it's the job I would like to have because I'm calling the shots on that, and the
Right.
private money we do. Yep.
So just to remind everybody, check out Instagram and find James under James R. Michener. That's James R. Michener. And I'll have that as a clickable link in the show notes. If you found some value in what we were talking about here so far, do us a quick favor. Share this with one of your investor friends. And if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a quick like and subscribe. Jumping into your investments here, James, what is your investment strategies right now, or what is your portfolio contain?
Yeah, so we have 32 doors. Seven of those are, sorry, 8 of those are duplexes, and the rest are single family, right? What I'm looking for is a lot of owner carries at this point in time, and whatever I feel is going to cash flow and appreciate. My rule of thumb has always been since I started investing, if I can make $300 in cash flow a month, I'm going to do it, right? So that's been a big thing for me is just making sure that I'm getting that $300 in cash flow, which, some people are okay with, other people won't be okay with. But because I know that the appreciation is going to come in most likely, and that real estate is a recession, rentals are generally a recession proof investment, right? Everybody always needs a place to live. I am debating on selling some of the single family homes and 1031 exchanging into bigger properties at this point in time. I've been
Mm-hmm.
putting a lot of thought into that, so it's ever paid off. And the other investment strategy that I just recently did is I took a line of credit out on my because half the portfolio is paid off and I wanted that equity to be working. So I took out a line of credit on that, $1 million, and I've been loaning that to people for doing their fix and flips, refinances, buying rental properties, etc., and I'm making pretty good profit on that. But if I can find a good rental that's in a good area that will kick off $300 a month in cash flow, then I'm going to buy that one. That's what I'm going to go after.
Can you kind of give us a breakdown on that single family home? What does your ideal house look like? Because a $300 cash flow on a house built in 1990 versus 1890, they're going to be very different. So,
Yeah, that's funny that you brought that up because I just bought one that was 1940, right, in downtown
mhm.
Prescott, and I turned it into an Airbnb. I bought that for 300,000. I got a loan of 225 on it. I put 160,000 into it, but I bought that because Prescott was going crazy and will continue to go crazy closer to downtown. I wanted to try the Airbnb market, which it's been good so far, and I wanted something on that street and in that neighborhood. So the difference between for me, it all depends on the pricing, right? So if I'm getting a good price on the 1890s home and it's in a decent area, for us, that's going to be historical, right? Most likely. So that's going to add value. The location's going to add value. It just depends on how much work I have to put into it and if those numbers going to pencil out on how much I have to put into it, what's it going to pay me back, how long is that going to take, and what does the appreciation look like. So the one I just bought downtown Prescott, I'm in it like 460 total. It's probably worth 550 ish right now in a down market. But there's houses right down the street that were similar size that were selling for 650, 750, and I just thought it was kind of a no brainer at that point. Now, what I like to look for is houses that aren't necessarily on a busy street, at least a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and a garage. And the reason I say a garage is because I find that the tenants that I have when I've had a house that didn't have a garage, they're much different than the ones that'll accept a property with a garage. And I don't know why that is, right? But it just brings in a different clientele as well. I generally will not buy mobile homes. I did recently buy two because of the area that I was in, the financing that I was able to get, and the price as well. Because I don't want to. I want to work with a certain type of clientele in there, and I want B property, B or C property. I don't want the luxury properties because I don't want to have to try to find a renter for $35,000 to $4,000, $3,500 to $4,000. That market's very small, just like buyers in Prescott over 750, right? So you're going to have a lot more sitting. My perfect ideal property would be a 3 bedroom, 2 bath with a 2 car garage in a good, decent neighborhood that's around 1,100 to 2,000 square feet. That'd be the perfect property for me. So I own a lot of those in terms of those single family homes. And so they've always done really well. I always keep a lot of people in there. It's different than or being in an apartment. They feel like it's their home. They take care of it and just build a good relationship with them. So I know that kind of covered a lot, but hopefully
Yeah,
there's
no, I appreciate you going into that level of detail. That's really interesting, and especially the tip around that simply having a garage. Oh,
to fall off.
yeah, you did, but we'll edit that bit out.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Let me have my wife turn off. Can you turn off a couple of devices on the Wi-Fi? Period. It's messing with my podcast I'm doing. Period. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. So I was just going to say that what I think is especially interesting is that you've learned that simply having a garage
Yeah.
will have a different clientele than without. That's a
Yeah.
really interesting tip.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, yeah, it worked out. I don't want to say anything that would be like bad, but I just like the clientele I get when I have a garage. So, yeah.
No, that's really important. You also went into Airbnb for the first time. Did you find that difficult at all? Is that had to have been a completely different experience?
That's a good question, right? The house I bought in Prescott that I put 160 into cost me about 60,000 more than I really thought it was going to, maybe 50 grand more than I thought it would. First person that we had in there, I left for a camping trip. While I was on the camping trip, I had to do a lot of phone calls because the HVAC wasn't working, the hot water heater wasn't working, the plumber that put in the new showers did not like tighten some of the fixtures well enough, and did not check to see that there was hot water running through those pipes. So I had to deal with that. I had some handyman go over there unannounced, and there was just a breakdown in communication. So hopefully I'll get a good review. I don't know. It's booked out for the next 4 months, so I'm good with that, But yeah, it's been interesting. I had that rented out from June 6th to June 26th, and we made about just over $2,000 for that stay. Payment on that is 1,500. Utilities probably 300. So I'm cash flowing 200 on that, but it's new, so I'm going to give it 6 months, see how it goes. But it might be better as a furnished rental, So
Sure.
yeah,
Well, and you're probably not hitting, since it's new on Airbnb, you kind of have to kind of price yourself a bit aggressive to get those first few
yeah,
renters through.
yep, absolutely, yep.
Yeah, otherwise it's kind of hard to stand out on Airbnb. It's just so flooded with everybody else.
I know the competition, but we're downtown. We have a good location, so that's been one of our saving graces. And also, the the property manager said that I should start somewhere between 275 to 350 a night, and I'm like, no way. Drop the price down to 200 during the weekday, 250 during the weekend, and let's just get people in there because I wanted to give it a shot and see what this was like. And that's helped me out a lot. I think is not being greedy with the pricing. So
So anything else surprise you? You mentioned you have a manager that's helping you with this, the turning it over, doing anything there. Did that anything there surprise you?
we had our first turnover yesterday, so we'll see how that goes. So I don't know about
Sure.
that. I don't have enough experience in it to tell you at this point in time, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting to run into somebody who's trying stuff on the fly, and I'm curious as to how this first experience is going.
Yeah, so far I'd give it about a C plus or so, just
Mhm.
because of all the learning I've had to do and some of the stuff I wish I would have done differently. Which what I would have done differently is had one of my friends or me and my wife go stay at the house, shower in the showers, use everything, see how it was going. Because I swear, I turned on the stove, so I checked all the breakers, everything was good, and then all of a sudden that's changed. Yeah. So my advice to anybody is when you own an Airbnb, let one of your friends or family members stay in there for free and check everything out, and then give you feedback on what needs to be done, what can be better, and if there was any mistakes in
Sure.
that. Yeah.
So you mentioned also that you use a couple of VAs. Is
Yeah.
that one of the ways that you separate your real estate investing from your realtor? Are they kind of focused on separate things?
Yeah. So my one virtual assistant that's been with me for 3 years, she's working with helping me manage my rental properties. She does the marketing for my real estate listing team, and she helps me with some of my CRM, and then she'll send out documents for me, etc. She's been really awesome. She also will do graphics for my real estate team, my private money company, and my rentals as well. So she helps me out tremendously with that stuff. My other virtual assistant was for my coaching. And so we would do videos, reels. She'd help me with content on that. And now I'm going to be transitioning over for her to kind of help me with some other social media when it comes to my private money investing group that I am an owner in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I got a tool for you that you can try out. Maybe point you towards something that might help your
Okay.
VA with content creation.
Okay.
I've been testing out a tool called MakerSuite,
Content creation.
and it's
Maker tweet.
MakerSuite, and it's really I've only been playing with it for a couple hours in the evening, and I think it's really going to change things on how I produce some new content.
Uh-huh. So it's Makersweet.
It's Makekersuite.
Meker. What again? Oh,
M A
Suite.
Makekersuite. And you can get it as a LTD over at AppSumo. Are you
Okay.
familiar with AppSumo?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, you can get it as an LTD over at AppSumo right now, and it's got quite the tool set. You know, it lets you do a search for like a category, and then it will
Uh-huh.
tell you how it might perform.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Interesting.
and then it'll even help you write out a script and all of that. So it's kind of interesting.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I'll take a look into that. Man, you're a wealth of
Yeah.
knowledge. Me and you spent like 15, 20 minutes talking before then. So, yeah,
Oh, I will. I got every tool you can imagine. I've experimented with things just to try to make things as efficient as possible.
absolutely.
So, James, this has been a fantastic conversation. I could continue, just keep going. We can
Yeah,
seem to
me
be
too.
able to just talk all afternoon. But
Yeah.
before we switch into the rapid fire questions, is there a question or concept you wish we would have touched on here today?
I guess the question or concept that I would have is there anything that you wish you would have known you got before you know it now, right? So what do you wish you would have known then
That's
that you
actually one of the rapid fire questions.
cool. Okay, perfect. So yeah.
So if you want, we'll start there.
Okay.
We'll kind of do this a little out of order. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't make decisions slowly, right? So for me, I lost out on a property because I was being a little greedy. I counter offered for $50 extra on the rent on a house that I was going to buy for 180,000 in unit 20, which is a good unit. It was 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, quarter acre, perfect, right? And I countered for $50 more on the rent. Well, she ended up taking a different offer. I ended up getting called by a client to sell that house later and ended up selling it for $400,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, I cannot believe I made that mistake back then. So, and I wish I would have bought more when the interest rates were low. I wish I would have refinanced everything when the interest rates were low to try to get more cash flow and pull some cash out of there. So those were the mistakes I made. And one of the things I'm really happy that I did is I worked super hard when the market was good. So everybody says make hay while the sun shines, right?
Mhm.
Now you know what that means fully and truly because we were in the glory days.
Yeah, and do something with it when you got those when you got it all bailed up and ready to use in those rainy days.
Yes,
It's amazing. What did they say? Comparison is the thief of happiness.
for sure. Yep.
You you can't be trying to keep up with the Joneses when you have
No.
a goal in mind.
Yep. I've actually unfollowed some people because of that, because I was feeling that feeling. I'm happy for them, right? But I'm always questioning if I'm doing enough. So,
Yeah.
yep.
What lie do real estate investors tell themselves and sometimes to others?
What is a lie that real estate investors tell themselves and tell to others? That real estate is too risky to, that real estate is too much of a risk in certain markets, right? Or that property is too expensive or that the financing won't work. Because I do that to myself, right? Like, oh, I can't buy that because the financing's not there. Yeah, but I didn't ask the seller, would you own or carry? Could I assume the loan? Could I offer a wrap? Like different stuff. So they always tell themselves that they can't do it without asking the other questions that need to be asked and digging deeper.
Yeah, that's especially important because when we first started out, and we probably should get back in the habit of doing that, is because we kind of forced ourselves in doing exactly that. When we did like a letter of intent, we had like three options, and
Yeah.
we would work through the three options, whether it's a carry back, cash offer, different things, so
Yep.
that there was more to discuss. There were more options available to the seller.
Yeah. I mean, even giving the seller maybe 30 days post possession could make a huge difference for them, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah. Yep.
Do you have a book recommendation, or what are you reading right now?
My favorite book recommendation is probably The Richest Man in Babylon,
Yeah,
The,
that's a great book.
the Road Less Traveled, The Millionaire Next Door, because that'll help show you exactly that it's slow and steady and that you can be wealthy without having to keep up with the Joneses or just making a nominal income. So those are some of the ones I like. And then if you're a real estate agent, any of the Miracle Morning books are really good. Miracle Morning for real estate agents is amazing. And you could read the Miracle Morning for investors. And it just tells you what to do throughout the day and how to get out of any funk or burnout that you're in.
Sure. And then finally, what single strategy, process, or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time saving impact to your business?
Virtual assistant by far. Yep. It's been the best thing that I've done. I could run my business, my retail business, and my rental business by just having her. And that's pretty much all I need at this point. Yep.
Did you have to go through any kind of mindset shift to see that a VA as an investment as well versus an expense?
Yeah. That's a great question, right? What I had to do, and this came from some of my mentors and my friends, is they're like, why are you doing that paperwork? Like, that's a 10, 15, $20 an hour job. Like, you make tons of money doing this. Why don't you have somebody else do it for you and help? And that was a big thing for me. It's just letting go and delegating. So yeah, that was probably my big mind shift there, was that I don't want to have to do everything myself.
Yeah, that's something that I think more people need to do, like an exercise. Let you say you decide your time is worth $100 an hour
Yeah.
to assess the situation and decide whether what you're doing at that moment is worth
Mhm.
$100 an hour.
Yeah. And and you know, if people are looking for a virtual assistant, like reach out because we can help you with that. It's so helpful. And they're great people, they're smart, you're helping them out, and you can build really good long relationships and they're loyal too. So if you find the right ones.
Well, I really appreciate this discussion, James. Again, I'm going to make sure your Instagram is in the show notes. It's
Thank you.
James R. Michener,
Yep.
and great conversation. I hope you'll come back again sometime. And we didn't even touch on the tip of the iceberg regarding mindset. I have a feeling we could just spend an hour just doing that.
Well, that's why I'm meeting with you on the 12th, because I think I could talk with you for hours too. Your wealth of knowledge as well. But mindset is just believe that you can do it, ask questions, and stick to a good routine. Great things come out of discipline and helping others. So,
Well, again, Instagram, James R. Michener, really appreciate it. Great to meet you, and I hope we get to talk again soon.
you as well. Thank you.